Just to introduce myself, my name is Janice B. Gordon. I have worked with lots of companies helping them to grow their revenue. One company I worked with, I helped them to grow their revenue by 6 million in less than a year. I talk about to them the same strategies that I talk to you about, whether, you know, large and small. There's only kind of like certain tweaks you need to do. The important thing is to be absolutely clear about who your customer is and focused on your customer. So I'm going to continue to talk about those strategies that you can use in your business. The important thing is for you to be able to use the strategies. So I tend to break it down and take out all of the jargon and really make it simple for you, because if you don't understand it, you're not going to use it, and you're just going to keep doing what you've always done and getting the results that you've always got. So what I like to do is really break it down and make it simple for you. So hopefully you can walk away with some strategies that you can use in your business, in your company, at least things that you to think about. To challenge yourself to do things differently, to think about your customers differently. If only you take your customers' perspective, if only you take your top 20 customers out and start asking them really valuable information, then that will be brilliant. You're going to get real gold from that process. So it's really, really important that you listen up. So I'm going to be talking about product innovation and really how you can get your customers exactly what they want. How do you know what they want? What's the systems and processes that you need in order to make sure that you're developing the right products and services for your customers' unmet needs? You know, let me give you an example of a good way of actually doing this. Now, you may have drank innocent drinks, smoothies. They started in 1999, and the way that they started is that they had a stall at a music festival, and they were all had full-time jobs. And what they did is they asked their customers, they had to sign, ask their customers, you know, should we give up our jobs and, you know, start this business? So they had one bin in front of their stall that said yes and one that said no. And the customers would drop their empties into whichever bin they felt best answered the question, yes or no, should you give up your job and start this business? Well, the rest is history. They ended the festival with a full bin of yeses, and they started innocent, and, you know, less than 10 years later, they sold the company for many, many millions. But the reason why I wanted to give you this as an example, this is an example of a company really listening to their customers. It's an example of product innovation, but it's meeting an unmet need. And it's a way of testing out your products. This is a customer-centric company because at all levels, the customer is actually core to that business decision. I mean, the customer decided whether the business started. The customer said which of the drinks that they liked the best. And, you know, as I say, the rest is history. But, you know, another example of great process with regards to product innovation and really giving customers what they want is Apple. And I know it's used an awful lot in examples, but the way that I want to use it here is in terms of product innovation and their process, and there's a lot to be learnt. And, you know, what they use is a process of iteration. The product is never done, and they've really capitalized on this as well. If you think about it, iPhone 4, iPhone 5, there isn't a great deal of difference between the two. It's just some features are modified. They've done that through a process of iteration, and what happens is that they will bring out a product, they'll test a product, they'll get customer feedback, and they'll continue to evolve that product. When there's enough evolutions, then they bring out another iPhone, you know, and there's this big marketing cavalcade around, you know, this brand new product. They're brilliant at their marketing, and actually when you get it, there isn't much difference. You know, there may be a few features, but it's still an iPhone. There isn't a vast difference. It's not a whole new thing. You would think that through their marketing, but actually it's just another iteration of what they've had before. So the reason why I bring this up, I want you to think about when you're developing products and services, it's never done. You know, I don't want you to be sitting in a darkened room designing the next technology, having not tested it with your customer, having not asked your customer, or having brought your customer in at the latter end of it. It's really, really important to do this. You know, the product is built, it should be tested, it should have customer input, and based on that input, that's what the iterations you work on, rather than working on the features you think are really geeky and great. You're working on the features that the customers want. You know, you're working on improving what the customers want, because actually at the end of the day, the customers buy your product. So that's the only view that really counts. And you can only do that if you think about your products as never been done. It's always been tested. You're always getting feedback on it, and you're always acting on that feedback. So that's really the kind of key message in this Facebook Live, when we're talking about products and services, not really thinking about having the perfect anything, but actually having it so it's good enough so that you can launch it and you use all of that valuable information. You can only really use all that valuable information if you have the feedback loops in place, if you have the right culture in place. I'm going to talk a lot more about that. But, you know, just to finish off with Apple, what this process is, it's a 4 to 6 week manufacturing process improvement process, and what happens is over those 4 to 6 weeks they're constantly evolving the features and the benefits to the customer of that product, and the product development life cycle just continues in this constant 6 week cycle. It is never done, and that's the way they look at their products. It is never done. You know, if you strive to create the new products and services, you're really striving to meet customers' needs, because what's the point of innovation? What's the point of the products unless it's really laser focused on the customer, laser focused on what their needs are, and laser focused on the opportunities and the gaps, the unmet needs, and really understanding what that is. And often it's about putting something out and then asking the question, because you've actually got some basis in which to make the change and make the difference. If you're just talking in theory, it's about interpretation. If a customer is touching it, feeling it, using it, and really understanding it, then it's a lot easier, and that's where you can really get maximum benefit and make major changes, but they're the right types of changes that are going to really kind of like be focused on the customer's pain point. What are the issues that you're trying to solve? Because you're asking the customer, because they're at the center of the decisions that you make. Now, if you are about relieving customers' pain, and that's exactly what you should be doing, then no other company should be solving that particular need in the way that you do it. There should be something unique and different about your solution, and that should be something that's important to the customer. So, if you are meeting customers' unmet needs and solving that particular problem that's unmet, there's a gap in the market, you will not only survive, but you will thrive in these really challenging times. To outperform the competition, your solution must solve a problem more efficiently than your competitors. And that's really the key here. You don't have to be the best product. Personally, I don't think iPhone is the best product in the market. I'm on a Samsung, hey? Yeah. But, You don't have to be the best to be a market leader. There are certain other things, so we put so much focus into, having the best product. But, it's kind of missing the mark if it really doesn't make a difference to a customer. If you've spent all of this time and all of this energy on a particular feature that's not important to the customer. So you really need to, you can't really afford to sit on your laurels. You really must stay absolutely focused about remaining, at the forefront of your customer's mind. Having a product and having an experience that the customer really gets, really wants, and really enjoys. Because, there's always going to be imitators out there. And it means you're doing a great job if you do have imitators out there. But the important thing is that it's not just about the product, because you could have an imitator that really leverage your product and brings out something that's marginally better. Great, their process improvement has really worked, but you've got the relationship with the customer. And so often what happens, I see, is that companies are really threatened by competitors. They're really threatened by this great new product that's come out, forgetting for the fact that they have the relationship with the customer. The other company has to win their customer over. And so what they do is they throw, all the toys out the pram and suddenly start getting in a race with their competitor to create another product that's even better than theirs. So they take their competitor's products and they look at it and then they marginally improve their competitor's product. It's crazy. They're losing sight of the end customer. The end customer is the most important, the relationship you have with the customer. So this is why I say you don't have to have the best product. What you need to do is have the best experience. A product is only part of that. It's really about creating the best experience. If you have the best experience, if you have loyal customers, if you really have cherished relationships and you've worked really hard on that, then your customer will stay with you because it's not all about the product. The product is really important. It has to solve an unmet need. It has to solve a problem. But all of these little features that people tend to get bent out of shape about aren't always the most important thing to the customer. It's the whole experience, and the product is only part of that. So it's really important that you are really focused on the product, but the experience that the product creates and the process to get that experience as well. And it's not from your point of view, it's from your customer's perspective. What's important to them? That's the most important thing in terms of product innovation. What is important to them? So if you create an experience that's poor, then the imitators of your products will they'll win, won't they? But if you create an experience that's really rich, that the customer really enjoys, then the fact that you haven't got this little feature and your competitor has is irrelevant, absolutely irrelevant. So don't join the kind of race to have the best product, because that's irrelevant to the customer. Don't lose sight of what's important here, and that is what's important to your customer. And the only way you know that is really staying close to your customer. So, I've talked in previous live sessions as part of this series about co-creating and releasing continuous improvement processes and products is really important. So just think to yourself, it's not done. The product is not done. It's continuously improved. And you won't go too far wrong if you're continuously improving based on what the feedback you're getting from the customer. So the problem of perfecting, and I see this a lot, which is why I'm mentioning it, is that, the product is so precious to you, and actually it should be the customer that's so precious to you. And the only reason why you may modify a product is because the customer wants it, not because you want to lead the market in having the best thing on the market. I mean, that is just you know, it's showboating, but it doesn't actually make you a more profitable company. Your customers do, and so that should be the only focus for your business. So perfecting a product really just spends a lot of time and a lot of money, and you're perfecting a product based on your perspective, which doesn't really count. You know, unless you're perfecting, and I don't even like the word perfecting, but unless you're improving a product based on your customer's perception, then you're wasting time and you're wasting money. You know, I've seen this a lot, that, you know, companies get so focused on things, having the best website, having the best of this, you know, and it doesn't bring in more money, and they're really disappointed that they've spent all of this time on these new things, you know, bells and whistles, and it actually doesn't affect the bottom line, because it doesn't affect the customer, and the customer's not really interested, and you didn't really ask the customer. So, you know, there's no point, you know, aiming for perfection only to find out that you've completely missed the mark. So take perfection out of your vocabulary, and instead have co-creation, have collaboration, have you know, those types of words, you know, being really focused on your customer's experience, customer's perception of what they think is good, and really focus on creating the best experience for your customer. They're the things that are important. Perfection isn't important at all. Customers are really fickle. You know, we know that. We're fickle as customers ourselves. You know, they have more power than they've ever had to make and break companies, products, brands and things. So it's really important to understand that, you know, the customer is really king, queen and everything to your business. They're the left, right and centre of your business. And the closer you remain to your core customers, your key customers, your most valued customer, the closer you will achieve your own objectives of not only surviving but really thriving and being market leader. If you focus on products and features and all of that for, you know, market leadership, you're going to get tripped up. It's really about focusing on the experience you're creating for the customer. Your product is part of that. And so, you know, it's about engaging through the experiences that you create, the knowledge that your customers have, and really gaining insight into your knowledge, you know, and these are the things that really support your business and your company on its journey. You know, with the rise of mobile, social and cloud technologies, you know, the customer is now empowered, really empowered, and you know, they have wants, expectations. They expect you to be listening to them all the time. You know, they are so demanding, and you know, that's just the way of the world. It's not going to change. So, you know, the better experiences that you can create for your customers, products being part of that, you know, the more listening that you can do, the more feedback that you can get from the customer, then the better the relationship, the trust between you will actually grow, and you know, you will have loyal customers that keep coming back for more, and even advocates will recommend your products and your service. So that's the thing that you really need to focus on. To capitalize on your customers' insight, you need to be thinking about bringing them into the, you know, into the boardroom, having them sitting at the table, literally metaphorically, but you could have a chair saying customer, so you never forget that, you know, customers are core to your business. You need to have them having a chair at the table of all of your decision making within your business. You need to have them coming in and talking to your people in your business. I think last week I talked about actually getting your team of people to sit in your suppliers or your customers' business, you know, so that you really understand what it's like to order from your company from their perspective, and really kind of like understand what their environment is. If you're creating a product or service for them, you really need to understand what it's like in their environment. I've also previously talked about when I work for a customer experience and innovation consultancy, and you know, the experiences that we helped businesses see from their customer's perspective, and how we kind of set up those scenarios. So, you know, it's really, really important, and it's something that you must be doing in your business. So, you know, make sure that you kind of like share the love and let me know, and share your comments. If you've done this, if you'd like to do this, please contact me, you know, and I'll be able to kind of like set up those scenarios so you can really gain those insights from your customers. You know, often we want to do it, but we don't know how to do it. So, you know, I can certainly kind of help you out with that. If you feel through these series that actually these are things that you need to be doing, you need to be a lot closer to your customer, you know, in the way that you're doing it. I've given you a lot of strategies, you know, but if you need help applying that, then, you know, please do contact me. So it's really important for you to thrive in these really challenging times, and that can be done through your customer relationships, and the way that you structure your business as well. How innovative are you? How focused are you on your customer? These are the things that are going to give you a leading edge as we continue to navigate really challenging times, because, you know, it's not going to change. It really isn't going to get any better. This is the world that we live in. So we have to really work smart, and working smart is actually growing through your customer and really understanding your customer. Your product is only part of the whole experience that your customer gains, and it's a way of actually, you know, a lot of the strategies I talk about is a way of actually you building up the relationship with your customer and gaining trust within that relationship. So, you know, really, if you haven't looked at all of this series, make sure that you go back and look at, you know, the other videos. So an innovative process doesn't just happen. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. You know, it's about creating the right environment, and, you know, really understanding what the end point is. What are you trying to achieve? And then it's about working backwards. Many kind of videos I talked about putting post-it notes up when we're looking at, you know, the customer experience, but you can do that with all processes. Really understand what you want to achieve, what the outcome will be, and working your way backwards. You know, so it's kind of all the process re-engineering. It doesn't have to be complicated. The most important thing is about having the right mindset, really having the motivation, having, you know, the right people around you, and having a shared goal of what you want to achieve. And really that goal should be totally focused on your customer. This is about bringing a customer-centric company, business that's really focused on what's important, and the only thing that's important to you is your customer. So these are strategies that are going to help you to navigate and really thrive in this environment by really focusing on your customer. You know, so focusing on your customer isn't always about having functions and departments, you know, and they have particular roles. Being kind of more having an innovative culture is really about understanding that innovation can come from anywhere, any source. You know, you may have a research and development department, you may have a research supplier that does a lot of the development for you. Well, it may be that you have, you know, a traditional company or quite a flat company, whatever it may be. It's about looking at how you can tap into all of your internal and external sources, all of your supply chain, and really understand the ideas that they may be able to bring forth. But you're not going to do that unless you're actually starting to tap into that and really understand that ideas, that innovation doesn't come from one source. It comes from many avenues, and it's about connecting up the dots. You've got to collect the dots and be aware of the dots to connect them up. And I'm really good at making connections between things, quite random things actually. You wouldn't believe it, would you? But you know, like it's about having the mindset that's really open. You've got to be open that ideas come from all sources, and if you're aware of that, you're going to be looking out for that all the time. And so it's about wherever you can source ideas, sourcing them internally and externally. And doesn't always come from the places that you've set up to create ideas. You know, it doesn't always come from your product development areas. It doesn't actually come out of, the traditional sources. So really what I'm trying to get at here, not very well, I'm trying to get at here is really looking outside of yourself, looking around for all sources from different industries. You know, your frontline staff are often brilliant because they're a lot closer to the customer's need. They're a lot closer to the customer. They have conversations. They're aware of the issues. And, you know, your customers have got to be at the core of all of your product innovation and development and iterations and improvement. They've got to be at the core. And you know, when I worked for an innovation consultancy, I discovered that customers are your best creators and innovators, but often they don't have a seat at the table, and it's really about creating the right culture for that to happen, so that your customers can help you to implement, you know, these ideas. You know I've certainly thought it, and I know that you must have as well, thinking that if this product only did this as well, you know, it would be better if. They're the things you want to capture from your customer, because if you don't, it's absolutely lost. And they are absolutely brilliant at, you know, taking a product and turning it on its head. You need to be there when that happens. And this often happens where they're using the product, you know, so you need to be there. Customers expect you to be listening all the time. So you need to have a culture, you need to have a process in order to do that. And that is bringing them in to be at the core of your business. So customers are brilliant at innovation because they're not limited by the internal structures, by the hierarchy. Their thoughts are, you know, like how, you know, this could solve my problem better if, or if it only did this. They're thinking about, you know, their particular needs in the moment, and they're critiquing your product and your service based on that. That's why you need to capture it, not in your business, but where they are, and bring them in and really get to experience it along with them. You know, in my experience of working in an innovation consultancy really has changed, you know, for years, my thoughts about, you know, customers and why they're absolutely core to your business. And so that's why I talk about customer centricity and all of these strategies, because I think it's a fundamental belief, and I see it all the time in businesses absolutely missing this, really missing this. You know, the problem is that, we create businesses, or we develop departments, and we do it from our perspective, and it's very difficult to take on other people's perspective, but you can do that. There are ways of doing that. If you go back and look at all of my, you know, a lot of my work, you'll actually see I've given you lots of strategies to actually do that. You know, customer-centric companies develop technologies and innovative solutions, and that's great. And it enables them to gain more attention, to gain loyal customers, and to have higher profits. So that's the essential reason why it's absolutely important for you to be doing this. You know, innovation isn't just for innovation's sake. It really isn't. It has to have an outcome. It has to have a valid reason to spend the time and money on actually doing that. And that's why I really am promoting it's not an all-in thing. It's not like one idea that's developed and then it's sold. It's really about thinking about the process of continual improvement, the iteration process. Your system, your culture has to allow and embrace this is the way that you are launching your products and services. So, you know, it's not never done, it's continuously improved. And you know, you have to have a structure, a culture that it is constantly listening, that's constantly getting feedback. And that's really the key to great product development, product innovation, continuous improvement. But you've really got to have the mindset, you've got to have the will, You've got to have the motivation. You've got to know that this is a better way of doing it, and structure your organisation and your people in order to receive that great insight and information from your customers or any source. And so, you know, it's really about being focused on meeting your customers' unmet needs. Being close to your customer, understanding their needs and understanding the gaps in between, and really kind of like getting the feedback enables you to do that. This is really about capitalizing on those unmet opportunities. This is really where the gold is. This is where you're able to solve a problem, come up with a solution based on the relationships that you have. You know, your competitors don't have the same relationships. So it's really important to kind of stick to your knitting and really stay close to your customers. You know, to do this, you need to be absolutely open and willing to be critiqued, you know, and not be precious about it. It's really about having, you know, the culture, the mindset, the processes, and having your customers really at the centre. You know, your internal and external sources need to be communicating all the time. And so you really need to have that kind of, you know, innovative environment, an innovative process for that to happen. So, you know, really what I want to do is sum up the kind of the 4 areas that I've talked about here. And the one is about co-creation and collaboration, and really understanding that your customers are your best creators. Then it's your frontline staff. You know, it may not be your research and development department or supplier, or who, you know, your supply chain. It may be, you know, it's about really being open and looking for other opportunities that may not be the normal avenues, really, and making those connections. The second thing I was talking about is it's really important to have this process of iteration for continuous product improvement. Obviously, process is closely linked to product as well, but it's really about understanding that it's never done. And then the third area is about customers. Customers are evolving and changing. They have higher expectations. You know, they're really leading the way. And if you understand that, you're going to bring them into your business, because you really need to hang on to their coattails. So it's really about understanding, you know, the environment we're in and how they're able to be more demanding. And also, once you understand that and accept it, it's okay. Then it's about setting up, you know, the avenues to really listen to your customer, how you can bring them into the core, how you can understand, how you can really capture the gold, the information, their insights, their knowledge, you know, making sure your experience is really kind of like meeting and satisfying, exceeding your customers' expectations of what the experience should be, and really understanding that the product is only really part of that. And then the fourth thing, it's really important to create the culture, the mindset, the process, the environment, the company, the business. It's really important to have the right structures in place for all of this to happen. You know, if you don't have the right structure, it's then like killing your own baby, really. So, you know, it's important to be, you know, really focused on having a customer-centric culture and a company in place. So they're the kind of 4 things that, you know, I wanted to kind of pull out of the session that I've done this week. As I say, it'd really be great to get your comments even after I've posted this. I do go in and look at all of your comments, so please do comment. Thank you very much for joining me. I will be posting this in a moment on my Facebook business page, but also on my YouTube page, and I do a blog on Mondays, and I often add in a lot more kind of information in there as well. So thank you very much for joining me. It's been great doing this series and getting your feedback, so please keep it coming.